Welcome. In this video, we will continue the literature review lesson. And previously, we have looked at how to find the sources for your review and how to organize these sources. And then, so after you identify the sources that you will be using and you organize them, then you start the actual review. Like you start looking and reading at these sources. You can read them. You usually start by reading the abstracts, then you read the introduction, and then if that is a paper is very useful and very related to you, you would like read the methods and results and so on. So some we usually like there are some primary sources that you will find that are very directly related to your work, and these primary sources, what we generally do, like you print them and you study it by heart, yeah, word by word, yeah. That's what I have done previously. So if something is very much related to my works, like someone who did something similar to what I want to do, I will like print it out, like, and then study it word by word and line by line, yeah, and read it very carefully and have it in front of me. And because you are either like replicating this research or extending it or adding to it or something like this, yeah. Okay, so that is so now I will what we will learn in this lesson is how to write your review, and this basically will be for not just your research proposal, but your research proposal, your research report, or your so that could be the introduction of your research proposal, the introduction of your thesis, the introduction of your uh, report for the project course, for example, the introduction of your research paper. I will show you like this in very general, yeah, very general, like how to write the introduction in general, yeah? How to do like your literature review, learn about your topic, and write the introduction, and not just the introduction, the how to structure your paper or your report or your proposal in general. So we will understand this diapolo structure for writing effective research paper and proposal, and we will practice writing effective introduction for research paper and proposal. Yeah. So basically, that's what you will be doing. Like that's the two objectives that we will be covering. Like, so let's start with this. What is this diapolo structure for writing effective? Uh, for writing effective. So I'll be covering both, whether like proposal for this semester or papers. Papers I could include like paper for publication or your thesis or whatever, yeah, or your report next semester. Okay, so this is a diapolo structure like this ancient toy, and this represent a structure of a good paper from. So you start, this is the structure of a good paper, is you start from like the general problem, and then you go to the specific. So that's the general problem, then you go to the specific problem, the research gap, research question and hypothesis, and your objective and scope. Okay, and that would be the introduction section. That would be the introduction section for what? That would be the introduction section for your research proposal and your research paper. So, so the introduction section of your research proposal and your research papers that also include like the report that you will do like for next semester if you are taking the project course. Yeah. So if you're taking the project course, that will also be like the report. You see, it's the same, and that's why like you spend some time this semester writing a good introduction. This same introduction you will use it next semester for your research report. Not exactly the same, you will just fine tune it, like you will change the language from proposing something to actually doing something. That be just like tiny little fine tuning and improvement. But if you did a good job this semester, then next semester you already have your introduction ready. Yeah. And what else? Then after this, this is your objective, yeah? And then after the objective, you go to something like also specific, like the method and the studies that you are doing. And guess what? Like the method that you're going to prepare. So what are you going to do this semester? Like for your research proposal, you're going to write the introduction and you're going to write the method. Again, the method that you're going to prepare this semester, that would be the method. Remember, this semester, what you do, you identify a problem, you learn about it. That's like the introduction part, and then you prepare for next semester, you plan how to do it. So that's the method part. So again, like the methods that you're going to prepare for this semester, it will be the same methods that you will use for next semester. So next semester, for your research report, you will already have this guy and this guy. It will be not exactly the same. It will, like, because next semester, once you start implementing things, the method might not be, this is just planning part. The method might change a little bit, not much, or it could change much, you never know, but it will change a little bit and it will have more detail, but you will have the main part of it this semester. So you see, this semester, like the more effort you put in this semester, the more it will pay next semester, yeah? And you will have a good, strong start next semester. Okay? So that is the research report or research paper, and that's the research proposal. Then what? Then you see here, this is general, and then you come to the results. The results you start to become like a little bit more general again, like a little bit more general. So here you highlight figures and tables. So here this is your representative study, like whatever you are doing. So you put like the method and your case study and whatever you explain it here. But this is the results, like what you get out of this research. So for when if you're writing a paper based on this method, you implement the research and you document your results. But for a proposal, like you don't have a results because you only have an introduction method. You still didn't implement this research. You still didn't do this work. So what you will have here? Can you guess what you will have here? So for the paper next semester, you will put the result. You'll implement the research and you will find the result of this research and then you'll put it. But for a proposal, what do you put? Like you don't have results. What do you put? So for a proposals, you don't have results, but you have something called like expected results. What do you expect to get from this? Yeah. So that here you have the results and here is the expected result. Then after the results, then you discuss your results. So discuss your result. You could uh, you could say, okay, like how my results, how my finding correlate to what we know already about this topic, or how it contradict with what we already know about this topic, or how it extend what we already know about this topic. Uh, and what is the novelty of this work, and what the new things did we learn, and what we are still didn't learn and we are still uncertain about, and what we still don't know. Yeah, so that would be all part of the discussion. So basically you discuss, okay, this is what we found, this is how this is new, or this is how this confirm or contradict, this is what we are still uncertain about, and this is what we still don't know. So that would be the discussion. And then you go to conclusion, and then you see you started with something general problem, then your discussion would be like general, like you go here to the general, like a broader impact. Yeah. So here that would be like the expected result. And what do we do in this expected result section? So in the expected result section, it's almost structured in the same way. Like that's what I need from you to deliver. Like deliverables, you need to put like what are the deliverables of this research. So that's for your proposal. What are the outputs? What are the outcomes? And what are the impacts? So you see here the impact, that would be the general impact. The outcomes, that would be like here, like kind of like the discussion you have here. The deliverables and outputs, that would be more like something that you will find here. So what is the difference between like deliverable? Like we will have one lesson again on how to write this expected results. We will have one lesson about how to write the message section. So now in this lesson, we mainly focus on how to write the introduction section. Yeah. But deliverables, these are concrete products of your work, like a report, like a model. So that would be like concrete, like this, I will produce this report, I will produce this model, I will analyze like 20 water sample, I will conduct like 20 interviews, like or whatever, like that's like concrete products. Yeah. outputs, these are would be like the immediate results. So let's say, for example, like I give you an example. So my deliverable is I will have a groundwater model that will estimate sustainable yield, like how much water we can pump out of the aquifer without an adverse impact. So that would be a deliverables. Like I will have this model, yeah. What would be the output? The output would be like the immediate result. So that would be the sustainable like yield estimates est- estimates at different aquifer units, yeah, different administrative unit at different admin units. So for each admin unit, I will have like different sustainable yield. That would be like the output, yeah, immediate result, like and that would be part of like your results and little bit of discussion because you will estimate like this. So you say, okay, for this administrative unit, this is the estimate we have. And then for the discussion part, you will say, okay, this estimate confirm other estimates that we have from similar model or contradict or extend our knowledge or whatever. Yeah. The outcome would be the medium term effects like improving decision making, for example. Yeah. The impact that would be the long term impact, like long term changes, like sustainable groundwater management, for example. Yeah. So that would be the impacts. Okay. But we will have one lesson about this. But for this lesson, our main focus here is what is this one, like the general problem. Like that's our main focus here, like this guy. Yeah. That's our main focus here. Okay, so let's do this one. Yeah, uh, that's our main focus. Let's do this one. Okay, here we go. So how to? Okay, so this, yeah, like again, see here. So this is the research method, for example, and this would be the project where you will write like a report. Yeah. Okay, so let me clean it. Clean this. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this is, will be the research. That would be the research method. You prepare this proposal, and next semester, if you are taking the project course, that would be because some of you will be taking project course, some of you will be doing thesis, and some of you might be doing other things. Yeah? So depend on what you will be doing. Okay, so here this is one strategy so that the reader by the end of your introduction would appreciate why this study is necessary. So again, like you start your introduction, we talked about this like before, like you start with the general problems and specific problems and research gap, research question and hypothesis and objective. So what like why do you write the introduction? Like what is the most important part of the introduction? Just think about it. Like you can pause the video and say like, in what is the purpose of the introduction, or what what would be like a good introduction? Yeah. Okay. So the purpose of the introduction, one important purpose of the introduction is to generate interest in your research. So like so that's a very important thing is that in the introduction you engage the reader. That's the most important thing like you that you need to consider. Like you want to generate interest in your research, so you engage the reader. And then so that's one thing to keep in mind. But what does the leader need, or what does the reader or your audience expect from the introduction? So they expect like outline the study context. They expect to see like the general context, like the big problem, like the general problem, like in the general context, like why this is important, what exactly are you doing, and why this is important. So that is one thing that the audience wants. They want to learn about like the big picture, the general context, and why are we studying these things? Yeah. Before we get into like the specific problems, they want to know why this specific problem is generally important in the big picture of things. Yeah. Uh, so in the introduction, basically, like what you do, you provide like a literature review. Like you conduct your literature review, and the aim of this literature review is you provide like a cohesive story, not just fact. Like think of it as you are, writing a movie. Yeah. So in a movie, it's like it's engaging, and you are providing like a cohesive narrative, a cohesive story, not just a list of facts. But writing papers is very different than writing movies. It's although like you can think of it as the same, but it's very different because in movie, for example, like in a thrill movie, you hide all the like the you can hide things for like the audience to know by the end. When you write research paper, it's quite the opposite. You lay everything up front. Like you don't hide anything or keep like build like excitement or build tension or build like things like that. That's not the objective here at all. Like the objective here is actually quite the contrary. You write everything clearly, you put like everything up front, you let the reader know the importance of what you're doing and the most important things. It's not like, oh, I will keep the most important things towards the end. No, that's not the strategy. The strategy is you put the most important thing up front. That's where the difference between like if you're writing a movie or you're writing like a research paper. But you can think about it, but that's the difference. But the common aspect is that both of them you need to engage the reader, and both of them need to have a cohesive story and not just a list of facts. That's the most important thing. You need to think about your story first before you start writing it. Yeah. So by the end of the introduction, the reader should know this. He should have a very good understanding of your topic. He should know what has been done, what has been already done. Like, so he knows the general problem of things, the specific research problem. So you know why this is important, and then he should know what with this within this specific problem, what has like already been done. So he should know this already what has been done. These are the research gap. And then this is why this, once you identify the research gap, and then this is why this study is necessarily to fill gap in knowledge or provide solution or whatever. So you can say, okay, like that's what we know so far. Like for example, PFAS, for example, treatment. That is a traditional method for treating PFAS. But however, this traditional method for treating PFAS, they are non-practical or they have a cost issue, they have logistics issue. Now we are introducing a new method that will solve this and this problem, but for example it will not solve this and this problem, something like this. Yeah, so he should understand like the big topic, understand what has been done, and then what are the gap of knowledge and what this research will fill this gap of knowledge. So in other words, like you should identify existing research to highlight gaps and lead to clearly defined problem statement. Yeah. And research question and objective. So you clearly define what you want to do with a clear research question, research objective, and scope. Yeah. So, and that's why this literature review will form the basis of your research proposal, the introduction, because how could you identify like research gap, or how could you even provide any information about the topic without literature review? So you start by the general problem, why this topic is important, why this problem is important. So here you say, okay, why this topic is important? Yeah. Why, and then your specific problem, why this specific problem is important. And then after this, what has been done? What is new? So that's basically like how you do this. Like, what is this topic important? Why is this problem is important? What has been done? What is new? And what do I want to do? So this what is new, and this is exactly exactly do I want to do? What will you be expecting? What you'll be learning in the rest of this paper? So that's how you write like a good introduction, and that's how like this is graded. Like you would be graded for writing the introduction in this way. Is this the only way to write the introduction? No, not at all. This is not the only way to write the introduction. But this is one of the good way for writing an effective introduction, a clear and effective introduction. It is also an easy way you can use this as a template for organizing like your writing, like a good structure for your writing. Like who like if you this is one of your reading assignment, and it's called like why it is a blessing to be rejected. This was written by the editor of the Journal of Hydrology Regional Studies. This is one of the top journal in my field, like groundwater hydrology. And these are the editors of his journal. Like this would be the top scholar in this field. So this is the top scholars or the top researchers and expert in this field. That is basically how they are recommending you write your paper in this way. And this one of your reading assignment, please read it. Like this article and this reading assignment is very important, and it is basically, you know, all what we have been talking about, like since the beginning of the semester, is all summarized here, and even more, and what we will talk about next. So if you don't want to take a course like this and you just want to know what is the essence of this course, I will tell you just go read this paper. That's what I do, for example, with the students that I work with who didn't take this course and are writing paper with postdocs. I tell them, okay, we will be doing research, we're publishing this research. Please read this paper because it will save you a lot of time in writing your, in preparing for your work and writing your work and then publishing your work. So if you are especially like interested in publishing, that's why, you know, this semester you don't really, most of the readings that I assigned to you so far are just things that are related to your course. This is the only external reading I think that, and there'll be another one, like another external reading. So that's the only that you can think of. This, that's the only reading I'm assigning for you in this course, if you can think outside like course material. Yeah, so please read this. This is very, very important. Yeah, read, like this would be like a good summary for this course, this paper. Yeah, and you can check this in your reading assignment. But anyway, so this is a good way of writing your introduction, and I will, why I want you to write your introduction in this way, although this is not the only way for writing the introduction. So I want you to write the introduction in this way for several reasons. First, it it is a good way for writing the introduction. It be very helpful for you to organize your thoughts and idea, but it's also good, it will standardize grading, and I would be able to see that you can do each of these one effectively and logically. You can talk about the general problem, you can talk about the specific problem, you can talk about research gap, although I don't expect you to identify research gap, but try your best. Yeah, you can talk about your research question and hypothesis, and you can talk about your objective. So that's why I want you, because I want you to practice every and each of these. And each one of this will require like a literature review. This one, as I showed you before, this one will have its literature review. This one will have its literature review. This one will have its literature review. This one also might have its like literature review. Yeah? So each of this one will have its literature review. And that's why I want you to write the introduction in this way, and you will check like your grading rubric. Basically like you get a grade for writing the introduction in this way. Okay, so here, engaged readers, that's the most important thing. You must write like the introduction. After you do all this, make sure that you engage the reader and keep the reader interesting. So let's do an example, yeah, of, and I will do this example here. Okay, let me, okay, this, I didn't open it. I mean, we can open it, it's not a problem. Okay, let's do an example. So here, remember, you start from the general and you go to the specific. So here, establishing context and important, like the general, like the most general, like why is this topic is important and why this problem is important. So like here, you establish context and important. So, and we will use this as an example. Simulation optimization is commonly used for groundwater management and remediation. So that's the general context. The general context is I'm showing that this is a common technique that we use it in groundwater management and remediation, and to make engineering design we use this simulation optimization. And remember, simulation optimization means that like you have a model, and on the top of this model you have an optimization algorithm that will find the optimal solutions. You have like a model and you have an optimization algorithm on this, on the top of this model, that will find like the, so here is your model that will find the optimal solution. Okay, so let's look at this. How did I write this here? Yeah, so here, you go here, I think you go here, publication, I have to find this one. Okay, where is this one? Here we go. You go here. Okay, so we go here, 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 here. Okay, so this is again, this is published in the Journal of Hydrology. This is one of the top journal in the field of groundwater. You put the abstract here. So this is the introduction. And guess what would the first paragraph be about? The first paragraph, I will be introducing simulation optimization, like the simulation optimization, just a little bit information about it and why it is important. Like, what are the application of simulation optimization? So you see here, simulation optimization have been successfully applied to identify optimal well location with drawdown rates for sustainable groundwater management. In coastal aquifer management, specific factor identify optimal well settings that reduce saltwater intrusion while satisfying management objective. Simulation optimization has also been used to assess hydroeconomic aspect of groundwater management. In addition, simulation optimization have been used to optimize data collection and monitoring network. Another field of application of simulation optimization is to control and remediation strategy application. See, in long-term contamination monitoring, water quality control, clean up for contaminated sites. So that's a lot of most of our engineering design for contamination design is based on simulation optimization. And here, see, I'm ending this guy shows that optimization remediation design can yield cost saving of up to 50% in comparison to non-optimized design. So if you are having a site and a clean up for a site, and if you are using just a model to simulate to to just for remediation to design your remediation solution, that would be good. But if you put use simulation optimization, use an optimization algorithm to optimize your design, that could approximately save up to 50% of the cost, 50% of cost saving, yeah, according to this study, yeah. So here I'm establishing a simulation optimization is commonly used in groundwater management. So here I'm establishing the big context and importance. Here, which part is this? That would be the general problem. Why this topic is important? Why simulation optimization is a problem? Now we go to the specific problem. What is my specific problem? So my specific problem is narrowing down to a specific problem. Addressing conceptual uncertainty for simulation optimization model is challenging and under-researched. Okay, so conceptual uncertainty. What is this? So conceptual uncertainty is that, like, remember, we are doing this design like for the subsurface. The subsurface is unknown. We don't know the subsurface. So we could have come up with different conceptual model of the subsurface. Let me show you an example. So here, for example, with respect to the hydraulic conductivity of the subsurface, it could look something like this, could look something like this, could look something like this, could look something like this. Which one is true? When you calibrate the model based on like existing data, they all give good calibration results. So basically, these four models are plausible. Like any of these scenario could be true, and giving the data, the current data we have, we don't know which one is true. All of them can reproduce our calibration data. We could also be uncertain about recharge. So here are different two scenario for recharge. We could also be uncertain about the layer thickness. So our aquifer has two layer. It could be like the layer thickness, like layer one could be like uh, deep, or it could be like a little bit uh, uh, like like a little bit like smaller like the layer one here, yeah. So that's like two conceptual models. So this is conceptual uncertainty. So here, narrowing down to specific problem, addressing conceptual uncertainty of simulation optimization is a challenging on under research, because think about it, like if I have one model, let's say I have one model here, yeah. Let's say uh, I don't know, like this is one model, yeah. So this is one model. Like if I have this one model, I can run a simulate an optimization algorithm on this one model. But if I have four model, how could I run this optimization on four model? How exactly will this work? How could I find a solution, one design that will satisfy this for like different models here, for example? Yeah. How could I do this? Yeah. So that is what we are proposing here, like addressing conceptual uncertainty of simulation optimization is challenging and under research. Again, everything you say in research, it has to be evidence based. Like we said, it is challenging and it is under research. So here, like how could you prove that this is under research? Basically, remember the search that I showed you about, like simulation optimization and multi-model analysis, and I was able to find 140 papers, and based on this 140 paper, after initial screening, I only was able to find 10 papers that are relevant to my research and the other are not relevant to my research. That's exactly what I did here. So these are this 10 papers. So I got these are the 10 papers that I was found that are relevant to my research. This is the optimization simulation optimization problems that they are doing. Uh, so for example, like this one, they are doing aquifer cleanup, water quality control, coastal aquifer management, conjunctive use of surface water and groundwater, aquifer cleanup, and here this is sustainable yield evaluation, yeah. And then what conceptual uncertainties they are using, like they are considering. And so you see here, I just see it's not just like, see how like this you provide an analysis, like you read them and you just try to make a table. Like, so here for example, like boundary condition, for example, like this study is considering boundary condition or geological model structure. This is like climate condition. So these are the different conceptual uncertainties that they are using. And how did they deal with this problem? Like they have multiple models. How could they find the solutions that would work for this multiple model? So here I identified like different approaches, yeah. And here this is the number of conceptual models that they are using, yeah. Okay, here there's a number of conceptual models that they are using. Okay, so here I was able to narrow down to specific problem addressing the conceptual uncertainty of simulation optimization is a challenging and under research, and I proved this. I already did like a comprehensive, like or a systematic actually literature search, and based on this systematic literature search, I was able to identify only 10 papers who have done this. Yeah. Highlights the research gap and novelty. So how could I highlight the research gap and novelty? Well, that's what I did here. So I said like how did they approach, like if they have different multiple models, how did they run the optimization or multiple models? So that's basically I made a figure to highlight this or to show this. Yeah. So how can you do this? So you can do this in 4 ways. So here this is like your simulation optimization, like this your optimization problem, and this is your conceptual model 1 to conceptual model n. So you can have like here 1, 2, 3, 20, whatever number of models. So you run each optimization in each model. Then for each model you have an optimal design, and then you compare this design and try to find something. Yeah. So uh, that's one way, and we call this independent model run. Other way is cross-validating optimal design. So what does this mean? So here I have my simulation optimization. I run it on model 1. I find this design. So this design would be the where to put your pumping well and how much pumping we should do. Yeah. And then I run the same thing for the second model, and then I will get a different design. A different design would be like different pumping rate and different location. And then I get like run the third simulation optimization model, and then I find the third design or whatever. And then cross-validating, like, so what does cross-validating mean? I will take like the optimal solution of like this one and run it on this model and see will it work or not. One run on this one and this one. So you cross-validate, and the solutions that will work on most of the models, that would probably be the optimal design. Yeah, because that solution can work on all the model. Yeah, or the model that is difficult to satisfy, where solution of other model generally fail when you run it on this model, that would be your critical models that you generally should consider because this model is failed. Yeah. Another way is called model averaging. So model averaging, like you have several model, you average these model, and then the average model, you run the simulation on this average model, and then you get the optimal design. A fourth method, which is the novelty of this paper, is concurring ensemble members. You have a simulation optimization and you run the optimization on all the models simultaneously, and then you will try to find one solution that will satisfy all the models. So here you find like different one solution for each model, but here you find one solution that you satisfy all the model. And then we summarized this method here in this table basically. And then we are done. We highlighted, so you see like this is a COVOD method, and this is the SEM method. And here you see this is study is the first study that like see this study already used the same method, but this is the study that will introduce these two methods. So see this study, we already highlighted the novelty of our work. Yeah, this what has been done before. This is the new thing that we are doing here. This COVID method, and like we are doing another run like using this method or also. Yeah, so we highlighted the novelty of this method, introduced concept of cross-validating optimal designs, the COVID, and concurring ensemble members through simulation optimization model for addressing conceptual uncertainty. So now I'm done. Yeah. And then now I will define like the research question and hypothesis. So that would be my research question. How does conceptual model uncertainty improve the design reliability? The COVID identified like the critical model. This other method like concurring ensemble member identify robust design. So here I will identify, this will identify like the critical model. Like can I identify critical model? Critical model means that this is a model that's difficult to satisfy, which means that like if you the solution of this like the solution of this model will work on other model, but the solution of other model will not work on this model. That's what we call the critical model. And here the robust design is that like the design that will work on all the model. And let me show you like a robust design example. If you don't believe me, robust design example. uh, See here, for example, this solution failed. Why did it fail? Because see, the contaminant plume is outside the site versus this one is a successful solution. So basically, the circle side tell you how much pumping we need to do, and that's how much pumping. And the circle is like where to locate this pumping well. So you have 9 pumping wells here, and this is how much you pump for each. And here, see, we were able to capture this plume separate from this plume because each plume has different type of contaminants. So if you capture them separately and you treat them separately, you will save some cost. Yeah. But let me show you here. Here, you see here, this is one solution that satisfy all of them. So we were able to find the solution that will satisfy the four model. Again, it will not behave exactly the same on the four model. Like you see here, the capture zone here looks slightly different than here, looks slightly different than here, but uh, sometimes it will fail, like you will have some cross contamination, but overall it works. Yeah, so we will able to find here, see this one, for example, like this solution, it works very well. Like you capture everything, the plume is inside your site, and you don't have minimum cross contamination. There's just some little bit of cross contamination here, but for the other scenario, it is. So you see here now you can, and by you can guess B is our critical scenario. This is the most difficult model to satisfy. Out of the four models, this is the most difficult model to satisfy. But anyway, so here again, this is not a groundwater modeling class, but I hope this example is clear for you all to understand. Like again, what I want to show you is like how to write the method. So that's basically how we wrote this method. So the first paragraph in the method, guess what the first paragraph will be about? Like as I showed you, the big context. The second paragraph is we will start to introduce our problem here. So we will start to introduce our problem here, which is like what is the specific problem? The specific problem is that uh, these models are uncertain, and there are different types of uncertainty, and one of these type of uncertainty is conceptual uncertainty. So that's what we introduce in this second paragraph, conceptual. And then conceptual uncertainty, can these are the different, how could you address conceptual uncertainty? So there are different way for addressing this conceptual uncertainty. So this paragraph here discuss why accounting for uncertainty is important and what are the different types of uncertainty. And then here we focused on like conceptual uncertainty and different method for addressing conceptual uncertainty. And then one of these methods, which we are considering in this paper, is multi-model, is to use multiple model. So here, now we will get into our problem. So what is our problem is multiple model. So here we will say that multiple model is has been widely used to address conceptual uncertainty. And then we go to table one. But what is the problem? What is novel here? But when you use multiple model have not been used much with simulation optimization. Yeah, like multiple model people will use it, but not when they run a optimization algorithm. And and that's what I showed here. Like people will use it, but not when they run a simulation optimization. And there have been only very few studies. And then I showed these few studies in this table. And then okay, so now I highlighted the gap in literature that there's only very few studies has done this, like run simulation optimization with with multiple model. Now I get more specific. What's more specific? Okay, now these are the studies that run simulation optimization with multiple model. What approaches does they use? So now here I explain like the approaches that these studies use. So basically each of these study I will cite it here and I will say, okay, this use like, like this approach, this use this approach, this use this approach, this use like this approach, and then I'm done. I already have highlighted like now I just highlight like the uh, our like what no study have done is the CEM approach, and that is the novelty of this work is that we are introducing the CEM approach, and then we are done. We just highlighted the novelty of what we are doing, and then the rest would be here like the rest of the introduction, like this paragraph would be the objective and scope and research question. Yeah. So here's the rest of the introduction. So I highlighted that this COVID and this one, like that's the novelty of our work. Then the last paragraph, which you see here, like this paragraph here, that would be this part, like the research question and hypothesis and outlining the structure of the paper, like our scope and so on. Yeah, that would be like this last paragraph. But see, like how many paragraph was this? Like so, this was addressed by one paragraph here. Was the first paragraph, and then to introduce like our specific problem, how many paragraph did I use to introduce our specific problem? I use here like one paragraph to talk about uncertainty in general, like why this uncertainty is different types of uncertainty in general and why uncertainty is important. I use another paragraph to talk about conceptual uncertainty and different method for addressing conceptual uncertainty. One of these methods is multimodal, and then I use a third paragraph to talk about like multimodal, and then I use a fourth paragraph to show that multimodal with respect to simulation optimization is not much used. So I use like four paragraph just to narrow down, like to highlight the novelty of our research, and then highlight the research gap and novelty. Now, once I identified like this relevant article, I will say, okay, this paragraph is basically like you see here, this paragraph, or starting from here, like in paragraph, like here and here and here, this basically will say like what has been done, what we know so far, and then once I stated what has been done, then I would be able to show what is missing. So what is missing is that this one is missing. This method is completely missing, and you see this method has only been applied once, so I'm showing a second application for it. And then so that would be like one paragraph here, two paragraph here, three paragraph here would be to highlight the what has been done as the research gap, and the last paragraph would be like for this two, like the research question, hypothesis, and objective. Okay. So let's continue here with this one. Okay. Let's do this is another example. So this is example like for this example for anyone. I think most of you could understand this, whether you are a water student, construction management, computer science, or whoever is taking this course. I think most of you can understand this. This is another example. Like this is ChatGPT generated. So I asked it ChatGPT. I provided like I copied and pasted this slide on ChatGPT. So in ChatGPT you can do this. You can copy and paste like a slide. I mean, I'm not going to show you now, but like this card. Okay, let's just keep this. Keep. Oh, okay. You can just like, for example, like come here. You can copy it and paste it on ChatGPT. So that's what I did. I copied this and pasted it on ChatGPT, and I asked it the ChatGPT to make an example similar to this one for construction management student, and this is the example that I got. So you can try to do the same, like see, like you can play with this, see any topic you are interested in, like try to copy and paste this slide and tell him like try to come up with something like an outline that structures that look something like this for the topic you're interested in and see what you'll get. Okay, so if you are for construction management student, if you are interested, I mean, I don't know how good or accurate this is. This is something I cannot judge because this is something outside my area of expertise, but try to do something within your area of expertise so you'll be able to judge, because sometimes like this generative AI, their output is unreliable and this is wrong, it's not correct. Yeah, so make sure, or it doesn't make sense. Yeah, but I'm just showing you this an example, like you can pause this video, construction management student, and read this example, or just go to generative AI and generate your own example. Yeah, and try to do this. But let's look at something more relevant here, which is a research proposal example. So remember, I provided you with a research proposal, and you can find this in your syllabus, or you can, if you go to your GitHub page of your course. I mean, I can put this in the. You will find all these links. Let me show you where you find all these links. So I put like usually uh, all. Okay. uh, Let me show you here. Let me swipe. See here, like in or even like see here. These links are here. Like all these links, I put them here, and all these slides are posted on Canvas. You can find all these links here. So this link, for example, will take you to the GitHub of your of, of the course. Yeah, and then you will find everything I have here that I post on the web. That's the syllabus, for example, like here. That's like your syllabus, you can watch it in this way. And that would be the repository, like that would be the GitHub repository. If you go here to homework, you find a lot of good things that I have. So for example, like you can find the proposal in a document if you need like a doc file. And here's an annotated version of it. This annotated version is also very useful. Try to look at it. Some student asking me to for this specifically, like to annotate this and provide like specific feedback. So you see here, for example, I'm telling you writing an effective introduction, like this is the why part, this is the why part, this is the what part. So like each paragraph I'm highlighting, and so you can also look at this annotated one, or you can look at it either here on in the Word version, but I'm just showing you what I have here. But this is a proposal, like let's see here. There's a proposal, the one that's not annotated, and I think this, yeah, 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 that's a proposal. So here, see, that's the cover page. So your final proposal, it should look something like this. It should have a cover page that looks something like this, a visual abstract, and this is a project summary. So it's usually like a one page, and then the project descriptions. That's the introduction. So the introduction of your proposal, it should look something like this. Yeah. So here in this introduction, uh, again, let's look at this example. So I have here another example for you, and let's look at it together. Yeah. So at this example here, what are we studying here? We are studying climate change threaten essential determinant of public health. So I will show that like how climate change impacts public health. That is a big context. So that's basically what would be the first paragraph is about. Yeah. So the first paragraph here, climate change pose profound public health. And here I will talk about some of the public health of climate change. And then I will focus at the end of the paragraph on what we want to focus on, which is harmful algae bloom and in Florida. Yeah, so we'll start by something general, and then I will focus on something specific, which is harmful algae bloom here in Florida. So narrow down to a specific problem. While we understand the relationship between red tide and respiratory illness, so here I will say that like this public health is in Florida here causes like we have here red tide, and red tide in the future has public health that are related to it. So that's basically what we like. Public health has Climate change has general public health. One of these public health is harmful algae bloom like red tide. And this is a problem that we have here in Florida. Red tide here in Florida has some public, like causes some respiratory illnesses. Okay. But okay, narrow down to specific problems. What is the specific problem? The specific problem is that while we understand the current impact of red tide on public health, we don't understand the future impact of red tide on public health. That's something we don't know because we don't know. And the reason we don't know this because we don't know in the future, are we going to have like more red tide? Are we going to have less red tide? Is going to be more, it would be longer, it would be wider in extent, it would be more toxic. Like we don't know all these things. Yeah. And with the change of temperature, we don't know also how, uh, yeah, like how public health with respect to red tide will change. Yeah. So while we understand the relationship between red tide and respiratory illness, the future impact of climate change on these illnesses and their associated economic costs are poorly understood and inadequately quantified. Yeah. So basically, that is what we don't know. Yeah. So highlights the research gap and novelty. So the research gap and novelty is, I mean, we just did it. Like we already stated here that future projection of temperature and pollen under different climate scenario within the context of respiratory illness arising from red tide. No one has done this before. No one has projected like projection of temperature and pollen under different climates because temperature and pollen, these are also some of the factors for respiratory illnesses. Yeah, some of the confounding factors for respiratory illness with respect to red tide. So future projection of temperature and pollen under different climate scenario within the context of respiratory illness arising from red tide, no one has done this before. Okay, so that is basically what we try to do here. Yeah, we showed this literature gap. And then what would be the next part? The next part defining research question and hypothesis. While climate change, so this basically our research question and hypothesis. Will climate change increase respiratory illnesses caused from red tide? What are the trend of respiratory illness in Florida Gulf Coast due to pollen and temperature and various climate scenario? So these are some of our research question and hypothesis. And then that would be our research objective. Like how could we study this? So our research objective to study this, we will develop a model for predicting respiratory illnesses based on socioeconomic, socio-environmental factors. So we will develop a model, assess climate change impact of these factors and their combined effect on respiratory illness. So we will assess the climate change impact. Like we will use this, we'll test this model under different climate scenario, and then under this different climate scenario we'll assess the respiratory illness impact, and then giving this scenario we'll estimate the economic cost of these health impact. Yeah. And basically that is what we have like here like in this paragraph. Okay, so here I'm not going to go through this like in detail because that's your homework. I already did one example like uh, this one, and for your homework or like your participation activities, that's basically what you, so I already did this example here with you in class, but this example here, that would be your participation activity. And that's, by the way, that's a very good like exercise for you because you will get a chance. More pages. Let's download this. I think it's better to download it and open it. Here, so we downloaded this. That's okay. Here we go. That's a better one. That's a good example for your final output this semester. So like at the end of this semester, that's what I expect from you. Yeah. So it's like it's all like 10 pages, including the references. Here I have like more like 20, more than 20 references. From you, I'm not expecting 20 references. Maybe, I don't know, like you check this number 15 maybe or something like this, or 10 to 15. But you have a cover page, you have visual abstracts. So visual abstracts, that basically tells you the story, like summarize this research. So maybe before you read this, you can read the visual abstract project summary. But this is the project description, the introduction. So I want you to read this introduction and grade it basically. So you'll be like a teacher or like you'll be a reviewer. Like imagine like you're a reviewer and you will read this introduction and you will grade it according. So that's the introduction here. And then after the introduction, then you have the methods section. So you do the methods section. And then after the message section, remember like expected result, previous support, and timeline. You put like the timeline, and that's it. Yeah, that's all what we expect from you this semester. So what I want you to do, I want you to you'll be like you'll have two roles. Let's look at this assignment. So this assignment you have two roles. So you read the proposal here, and then you grade the introduction, use the introduction grading rubric. So like this is the grading rubric. So here this is the rubric for your proposal. That's how your proposal will be graded at the end of this semester. You see the introduction section has 30 points. So 30% of your grade will be on the introduction. So you already reviewed this content, but here you will actually use it. Like so you'll use it. So that will give you a chance to look to carefully know what is expected from you in this semester. So here this is the introduction. You will this is a rubric that you will be using, and you will provide like a grade, and then you post your review report. So you provide the grade and rationale for this grade. So you said, okay, like for this section you got like 8 out of 10. And by the way, this paper is not perfect. This proposal is not like the final version of it. So I intentionally put this version because it has a lot of mistakes and issues that you can figure out. So don't like if you give me like 10 out of 10, that wouldn't be the correct answer, because you shouldn't be getting 10 out of 10 in many of these, like the full mark. There's a lot of issue. But so you'll be very critical, try to highlight like issues and problems in this introduction, and good things also, not just issues and problems. You highlight good and bad things, and you provide like your review report for the introduction, and be very critical. Yeah. So that will be the first task. The second task is that you'll be an editor. So because part of what you learn from this course is that like we want you to learn critical thinking, like how you could be critical. So and how you could like review reports and like papers and reports and proposals, and how could you also make decision, not just review them. So here you'll be like a reviewer. So remember I told you like when you submit a paper for publication, they send it to two reviewer. Two reviewer will review it, and then they will send the report to the editor, and then the editor will look at the report, and then it will like look and make decision accordingly. So here, your second task is that you will be an editor. So you will read two review report for two of your classmates and provide them with a suggestion, like whether you think they did a good job in writing this review report or not. Yeah, so that's basically your homework. I know some of you might not be particular, although I encourage all of you to do this one, to review, to do this. I mean, it's short. Yeah, it's very short. So the introduction here is very short. It's only like 2 pages. Yeah, so I encourage you like to review this one. But if you don't like this topic, or if you're not interested in this topic, I put another one for you. So you don't have to do both. You can either do this one or this one. This is something more general. So this is another paper which I wrote, and then you will review the introduction of this paper, and then you will provide your review comments. You'll be like a reviewer. So it's up to you. You can either do this one. I highly recommend this one because this one is like a full proposal, and then like in the next homework that you will be doing, you will be reviewing the method. So you might need to read this introduction anyway, but in another you'll be doing the method, and then later in the semester we'll be also looking at this timeline in the lesson of the timeline. But again, if you, I just give you the choice, you can do this one or you can do this one, whichever you want to do. Okay, so I think that's all for this lesson, and see you in the next lesson.